Spiralling was the first song we released because we felt that it was a really important song in terms of the way we made the record and the spirit of the making of the record. It was a song that really defined the whole creative process for us and opened us up to a whole new way of working, I think. We love what we've achieved with it sonically, and lyrically it's definitely is one of the songs on the album that is about the gap between what we dream of being as people and what we actually achieve. And you know, it's quite unusual for us. It's quite a train of thought type song lyrically, and yeah, we're really, really proud of it, and we're, you know, very pleased to get it out there. First up.
Who's chosen The Lovers Are Losing?
That was me again, I'm afraid. The Lovers Are Losing was a very, very important song for us in the making of the record. It was written in Berlin. It kind of, I suppose, was one of the peaks of creativity in Berlin, and it was, you know, shows, I suppose, the way that that city inspired us while we were making the record. You often hear this kind of very simple, boiled down version of what people are, as, you know, kind of divided into lovers and haters, you know, and you hear that in songs by everyone from kind of Michael Jackson to Kanye West, and I kind of like the idea of just thinking about the fact that if we're honest with ourselves at this moment in time, it feels like the lovers are definitely kind of you know, in real trouble, and I hope the song serves as a kind of rallying call to you know, all of us who are not warmongers and all have a romantic dream of what we could be as a human race.
It's like that bit in The Girl Is Mine.
Exactly. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
That's the one. Better Than This is one of my favourite songs on the album. I think partly because it was such a challenge to sing it. I remember when Tim kind of first premiered the demo, my immediate thoughts were, how the hell am I going to get my head around this and sing this song? But it's a sort of worthwhile challenge because it's such an incredibly powerful song, and I think it, you know, it's very much a song of the times. You know, it's a song about celebrity culture and the way people react to fame, and how important that actually is. I mean, I think we've discovered as a band, and I've certainly felt myself, that the sort of fame side of things is such a kind of minor part of what we do. And it always seemed like this amazing prize that we were going to have when we got successful as a struggling band. But actually, as it turns out, it was something that I was quite turned off by and found quite difficult to reconcile. And so, you know, for us, the sort of notion of people wanting to be famous for the sake of it is very strange. And so I think that song kind of questioned why you would want to do that. And I think, again, it's another song about, you know, it has a positive edge, a sort of sympathetic edge to it. You know, why don't you just down all that crap and try and do something that ultimately is positive and will change things for the better.
You Haven't Told Me Anything is another very unusual song for us sonically. It's much more kind of beat driven, I suppose, and it was one of the first songs we worked on. We worked on it a lot with John Bryan, the American producer, who again, you know, that was a really pivotal moment in the making of the record. He persuaded us to, I guess, just really open our minds to and stop censoring ourselves before actually, you know, trying out ideas, which is a very easy trap to fall into. Lyrically, I think it's the only song on the record that doesn't have a huge amount of light to it. I think and it's also one of the only songs that really harks back to the kind of very tough, dark times we've had as a band. The best thing of all is that, you know, having come out of that, we've I feel like we've solved our problems ourselves through making music that we really, really love and are really proud of, and this song is definitely an example of that.
Perfect Symmetry, I think for me, was always going to be, right from the moment I first heard it, the kind of centrepiece of the album, because I think it's just the most ambitious and probably the best song that we've ever come up with. It's just this kind of sprawling mass of melody and I guess, you know, in terms of what it's about, you know, the idea of again getting back to that thing of there being so much kind of hate and mistrust and pain in the world, and trying to understand, you know, why that is and how it can't just be more simple. And yeah, just, you know, it's a very bold, a very kind of beautiful, ambitious song, and I think that's why we kind of wanted it to be the focal point and to name the album after it.
In terms of pure kind of writing and the sense of having achieved something that feels, I don't know what it is about the song. Maybe it's because it's got so many bits. It has a kind of sprawling Bohemian Rhapsody feel to it.
I love the way in that song that, you know, it's got this kind of sustained energy the whole way through, but you always feel like you're falling towards this big moment in the middle of the song, in the middle eight sort of woe bit, I guess you'd call it. And as a singer, you know, I've got this kind of, you know, heightened sense of anticipation the whole way through the song, right up until that moment. It's a really, for me as a singer, it's just such a, you know, it's a real honour to be able to sing that moment and have that moment there. So I'm sure I'll always enjoy singing that part as long as we continue playing.
You Don't See Me is it kind of stands alone in some ways on the record. It's more of a kind of it's a bit more delicate, I suppose, than a lot of the songs. I feel like I've managed to express something that's probably been, you know, that I've been hung up on my whole life, which is a sense of being kind of outside of things all the time and outside of, you know, whatever's happening, you know. And yeah, I feel that we've managed to make that atmosphere tangible in the song, so I'm very pleased about that.
I remember recording again and again in Berlin. We had Stuart Price out, who has worked quite famously with Madonna, and as well as doing quite a lot of more dancey music of his own. And we were working on the middle eight, a very small section of the song, and I think Tim had just bought a new keyboard, and he had this idea of getting a sound from that to try and put a riff into the middle of the song, and it was this amazing sort of beautiful riff which ended up being the whole thing that the song was built around. And I don't know, that moment for me was where that song, we'd been struggling with that song, and that was the moment where suddenly I felt like we'd brought that song into, you know, into this album, because it's quite an old style Keane song in a way, but you know, it's been given a really modern twist, and I think that's you know, that was just through experimentation, which was what we were trying to do with everything on this record.
Playing Along was another song that came along in that sort of midwinter batch of songs that Tim wrote, and again it was another song that kind of immediately grabbed me. So much kind of distress and pain is going on in the world, and yet we, you know, we have the kind of luxury of just being able to kind of bury our heads, or, you know, as the song says, you know, turn up the song on the jukebox, or whatever it is, you know, and that ability to just distract ourselves and drown things out from sort of our minds. And so, you know, for me it felt like an incredibly pertinent song, I guess, as a kind of young Westerner. And I love it sonically as well. It's just got a lovely kind of dreamy atmosphere, and I think that was the key for us when we came to record it, was to get this kind of, I don't know, this sort of dreaminess into it, you know, and then a great kind of huge rock out section and we're really looking forward to playing that one live as well.
Pretend That You're Alone was written really late on. It's got a sense of humour, and yet it's quite sort of bleak in a way. Again, I think it's a very sort of human song, a very sort of ambitious thing to write about, but it's a really nice idea of, you know, what would you do if you know, everything was gone and it was just you. I think that's a really sort of cool idea, and I always sort of imagine one of those sort of movies where everything's gone and, you know, it's Will Smith or someone's left on his own. What would he do? Lots of CGI probably, but anyway, I love it. Black Burning Heart was one of the first songs that Tim wrote, I think, that made it onto the record. It's quite an early song for this album, and it's got a really cool driving bass line which we just sort of got together while we were doing our early sort of rehearsals for the record, and so I was always really excited about it. From a rhythm section point of view, it's really funky and quite different for Keane, even though it just sort of drives forward and it has an amazing momentum as a song. It's incredibly sort of musical and you know, as well as, you know, being a very cool song lyrically.
Love Is the End, I think is a great way to kind of finish the album. What it says more than anything is that, you know, love will out in the end. Love is you know, the most important thing, and I think it's a great way to end the record because, you know, there's so many questions asked about, you know, where we're going as a species and who we are as human beings, and I think the notion, that kind of hippie-ish notion that actually, you know, love can win is still something that personally I hold in very high regard, and I feel is very important. For us as a band, I mean, I get that song probably came out of you know, the tricky times that we've had as a band. You know, I think for us, I think we felt that, you know, our sort of love for each other and our love for our music was the thing that kind of got us through in the end, and so I do think it's a very powerful statement to have at the end of the album, but in a more sort of philosophical sense, I think it's also a very potent song. And it ends with a gong.
Most importantly.
And it has a musical saw on it, which is definitely the coolest instrument ever invented.
After the gong.